Don't be so needy. Don't be so needy. I love you. I love you. Well, my boss is here, so I have to behave. Right, City? Yeah. I have to behave today, guys, because my boss is here. Right? Isn't she? And she's giving me strict instructions today for you guys. Okay? So we're going to get into it because we have so much to talk about. Oh my God, just sit down. Just sit down because I'm just a girl. No, I'm just an old lady in YouTube asking you to love me. We're going to get into what the palace said about Meghan Markle's outrageous claims of now her last name is Sussex and all the confusion. And I just want you guys to know, because for some reason I'll repeat this. I started this channel because I had questions. And I had questions that the mainstream media was not giving me answers to. And I thought to myself, am I the only one with these questions? So when Meghan Markle dropped in her show and scolded and embarrassed and humiliated Mindy Kaling, saying, I'm a Sussex now. Mindy Kaling's looking like, what's up with this crazy woman? Clearly, and the reason why Meghan Markle says, is to imply that they have a very prior relationship, which they don't, because they only met for the Spotify things. And sometimes, she sends her a message. So they're not that close friends. But Meghan Markle wants people to know that she's good friends with Mindy Kaling, her close friends, because even the mainstream media is pandering to this bullshit narrative. Okay. So I got curious and I'm like, what? Is that a thing? Is that a thing? So, like you guys, I was very confused. So I started reading, I started researching, I started looking everywhere where it says that a royal title is a last name. I went into the royal website, I went into the letters patent, I went everywhere. And I still kept saying to you guys that Meghan Markle is lying when she says that her last name is Sussex. But I got a lot of clapback saying, oh no, X person or X people have said this and this, so it must be true. So I said to myself, are my eyes lying to me? After all, I speak 4 languages. I do have an accent in all of them, but I said to myself, because there has to be a possibility that what I'm reading, I am either misunderstanding it. Yeah, misunderstanding it, because probably, even though I worked in English my whole life in government, business, and everything, maybe I'm misreading this whole thing. Maybe there is a British custom and that is protocol, that it's how it's done, right? Right, guys? Because I have to admit that possibility. I am asking questions and I have those questions. So, when after going through everything, I still came to the same conclusion that no, that is not that Sussex is not a last name. It is a royal title, but people still add it. I reached out to the palace, precisely to the public information office and the public information officer at Buckingham Palace. You can reach them between, it's regular phone. They don't do cell phone. They don't do WhatsApp. They don't have an email. You can call them. And the calls to this number may be recorded, but you can't record them. Okay. So I asked because I wanted some information about it. And I am going to tell you what exactly it is that they said to me and what is the real deal behind Meghan Markle's claim that now she is a Sussex. That listen to me very carefully, that her last name is Sussex. And I'm going to put this out there. I'm going to tell you what the palace said to me, the links they sent to me. I'm going to show them to you, and you will decide if what the palace says to me, what it's stated in the letters patents, what's stated in the royal website is correct, or if Meghan Markle is correct. So let's get into this beautiful.
The staff, especially, putting up with the media for such a long time. How did you actually come to be at the kindergarten in the first place?
Well, it was through friends. I wanted to teach children, and they said, why not come along? So I first started off doing afternoons, and then I took over the mornings and did whole days. But I only worked 3 days a week at kindergarten, and the other 2 I looked after American baby boy, which nobody seems to have realised.
You know, when I was a babysitter nanny for 2 Irish Catholic families when I was in college, and one of the
If I have to say one more time that I am absolutely shocked and surprised that people will believe anything that come out of Meghan Markle's mouth. And yes, Rachel Meghan Markle's mouth. I am still shocked why people are still wondering whether she's telling the truth or not. I mean, in the 43 years she's been on this earth, or 47 or 50, depending on who you believe. This woman has never, ever, not during the TIG, not during any of previous interviews she has given, has she ever mentioned that she babysat for anybody. But as I've said to you from the very beginning, when things are really bad, she's going to crumble and crumble. She's going to come up with more insane, incredible stories. Lady Diana did babysit an American baby boy because the lady that used to be her employee came out and said so. And also, she was invited to her wedding. Have you noticed how Meghan Markle never invites anybody from her past? You would think that she would go back to these people because it would be such a lovely thing. Oh, you know what? I babysat for your kid. I wonder how old they are now. I'm going to have them. That would have been a great story. That would have been a great headline grabber. So for me, I am still absolutely shocked that this woman is still believed and people are buying that. And now, I did a video yesterday about the bust up with Drew Barrymore, and it did happen because Meghan Markle was absolutely livid that they kept calling her. Her producers kept calling her Meghan Markle because she is Meghan Markle. And she kept, what you saw in the Mindy Kaling thing with Meghan Markle, you can see she goes, it's so funny that you see that, I mean, if this woman had not been on screen, it would have been a different approach she would have given Mindy Kaling. Probably maybe not yell at her because Mindy Kaling is not an employee and she was getting paid to say those insane things. So we kind of saw a glimpse of how Meghan Markle reacts when somebody calls her Meghan Markle. So you can imagine how she yells at producers. We know that this woman has been accused of bullying everybody. Guys, I just want to say I am not a journalist. I am not an expert. I've said this many, many times, nor have I ever claimed to be an expert. I have worked in diplomacy for quite a few years in my past life. I have worked with royalty. I have arranged things for royalty. I have been a diplomat. I have organized things for diplomats when I wasn't working as a diplomat. So I have a knowledge of those things, but I'm not an expert on things. And because I am not, I ask questions. This is why I have this channel. So let's get into the meat of it. I mean, I am shocked that you people, of all people, would come and say, oh, you're not an expert. I've never claimed to be that. But I do research. And this channel, it was actually for me and for people who, like me, feel that, what? Is that true? How do I find out if this is true or not? And then I do my research and I put it to you guys, and you decide whether or not. And the research I provide to you is not, when we're talking about certain things like this, it's not hearsay. This is directly from Parliament. This is directly from the royal website. This is directly from the legal documentation that is current, valid, up to now. Okay, so we are going to start with this right now. This is directly, I told you that I phoned the palace yesterday, and they told me that they do not make comments on what any members of the royal family say, or former members, especially when they're former members of the royal family, and they instructed me to contact them directly. I said to the very kind person, I understand that, but this person is claiming that a royal title is her last name and that a royal title can be a last name. I explained who I was because you have to be transparent. I wasn't trying to trick her or anything. I just say I'm a YouTuber. I report. I do a lot of things on royal, and my subscribers who are, let me tell you, I get 1 to 2 million views a month, want to know the facts. And the very kind person said, I cannot make comments about a former member of the royal family or what she says outside. That is her right to say whatever she wants to say. However, I can instruct you to look at X, Y, and Z. She reconfirmed to me that a royal title is not a surname, it is a title. You know, guys, that I can be very daft, and a lot of the times a good way to see when two people are communicating is to repeat back to them what you think you heard, right? Because she told me that, and I said, but wait a minute. When Prince William and Prince Harry were in the military, they used Harry Wells and William Wells and Harry Wells. He said that was something in a very informal manner because they decided that they not want to be addressed by their official names, titles, and styles. So they decided to do it in a very informal manner, but that is not their official name. They would never sign themselves as that. They would never claim that that is their last name. They used it because it was a way for them to blend in, but that is not an official name. That is not custom. That's not even custom. Okay. Because I've heard that repeated a lot. And I also said that to this very kind person. She said, no, that was done in an informal manner. Okay. The Cambridge, for example, when the Duke and Duchess of when Prince William was the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and their children were going to school, they were Charlotte of Cambridge. They were not Charlotte Cambridge. It is not, again, that was done in a very informal way. But in their official documents of enrollment in all these institutions, they use their official title. And I'm going to try and make it very simple, like under 5 or 6 minutes here, what this woman explained to me, what this kind lady explained to me. And the best way for you to do this is for you to see what they're saying right here. This is from the royal website. People often ask, I have posted this everywhere. People often ask whether members of the royal family have a surname, and if so, what it is. Members of the royal family can be known both by the name of the royal house and by a surname, which are not always the same. So that claim that Meghan Markle wants to have the same last name as her kids, why does, you know what, I'll give her an idea. Why doesn't Harry, take the last name Markle and they're all known as Markle, right? This is why they're emphasizing, which are not always the same. And often they do not use a surname at all. And basically what this lady told me is the British, if the members of the royal family, if a particular member of the royal family has a prince or princess title, they cannot use a last name. They go by their last name, but they go by the title, right? Now, if they want to use a last name, then they cannot use a title prince. And then she explained it to me. And I mean, she went this, and then this is just to give you an idea. Kings and princes were historically known by the names of the countries over which they and their families ruled. Kings and queens, therefore, signed themselves by their first names only. That's how they sign. A tradition in the United Kingdom, which has continued to the present day. Now, and then they give you a little bit more story, blah, 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 and let's not forget that the royal family, that in 1917, there was a radical change when George V specifically adopted Windsor, not only as the name of the house. For example, the Prince of Wales titles, the Duke of Sussex titles, the Duke of Edinburgh titles, they all belong to the House of Windsor, to the monarchy, who is now under the House of Windsor. They all fall under that umbrella. Yes, it's the Prince of Wales, but the Prince of Wales belongs is a title belonging to the monarchy, who is now represented by the House of Windsor. So this is what he's saying, not only as the name of the house or dynasty, but also as the surname of his family. The family name was changed as a result of anti-German feeling during the First World War, and the name Windsor was adopted after the castle. You remember the Windsor Castle that the Queen loved so much, okay? And then they had a meeting. Sorry. And then they had a meeting. At a meeting of the Privy Council on 17th July 1917, George V declared that all descendants in the male line of Queen Victoria who are subjects of these realms, other than female descendants who marry or who have married, shall bear the name Windsor. Now, this is a very important paragraph because here they're specifying that it's all the descendants of the male line of Queen Victoria. So they're being very specific as to who can use the last name if they wish to, or who is part of the royal household, right? They have to be descendants in the male line of Queen Victoria. This comes into play because when the Queen ascended the throne in 1952, she agreed to continue that tradition. But we all seen the crown, haven't we, guys? We have seen the crown. But actually, that is factual. That Prince Philip, who was Prince Philip of Greece, and that little of OF means a lot. People have asked, well, why is Prince Archie of Sussex? Because his father is the Duke of, come on, guys, you can do this, of a county called Sussex. Sussex used to be a kingdom, a country which was annexed by Wessex, which was later absorbed by the United Kingdom. Okay, so because Harry is the Duke of a place named Sussex, his children of the royal blood are Archie of Sussex. So it's not that, oh, he's Archie Sussex, and it's not a custom either. So this is very important because this is where there's a lot of confusion, me included. However, in 1960, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh decided that they would like their own direct descendants to be distinguished from the rest of the royal family without changing the name of the royal house, as Windsor is the surname used by all the male and unmarried female descendants of George V. Why did I tell you that it is important for you to think about the Victoria, all descendants of Queen Victoria? Because basically the Queen wanted to honor her husband, Prince Philip, to create his own little dynasty, even though he could not have, he lost because he was Prince Philip of Greece. He had to give up his titles, and then he took the last name Mountbatten, which is explained here in this link, which I will leave for you to go and take a look at and read carefully. Okay, so he complained and he said, I've given everything up, I have nothing. So Her Majesty the Queen said that all her children born out of the union between her and the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, who do not hold the prince or princess HRH style, would have the last name Mountbatten Windsor, but only from the union of, this is why people say, oh, the House of Windsor, for example. And then the very kind lady gave me the example and said, Princess Margaret, who was the sister's sister, her kids would never be Mountbatten Windsor because Prince Philip was not the father of those children. So it's only descendants of the Duke of Edinburgh and the union, and between his union and the Queen Elizabeth. But most importantly here is the Duke of Edinburgh. Okay? So, and this is where we go. It was therefore declared in the Privy Council that the Queen's descendants, other than those with the style of Royal Highness and the title of Prince / Princess, or female descendants who marry, would carry the name of Mountbatten Windsor. Okay? And actually, this was reflected in 1947. This reflected Prince Philip's surname in 1947 when Prince Philip of Greece became naturalized. He assumed the name of Prince Philip Mountbatten as a lieutenant, and then, okay? So the effect of the declarations was that all the Queen's children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, on occasions when they needed a surname, would have the surname Mountbatten Windsor. And this is why Harry and Meghan, when those children were ordered through Amazon, they put in their birth certificates Mountbatten Windsor. If they are to take any last name, is Mountbatten Windsor. It is not the Duke, it's not the Sussex, because that is not. And this is here in the royal website. And the lady was so nice to send me the letters patent and everything. Okay, and then they go here. For the most part, members of the royal family who are entitled to the style and dignity of HRH, prince or princess, do not need a surname. But if at any time any of them do not need a surname, such as upon marriage, that surname is, you guessed it, Mountbatten Windsor. So I asked this lady, because I'm nosy, and I asked, but again, why would the Cambridges call their children Charlotte, and they use the Cambridge as like informally? And they said not Mountbatten Windsor, because they said they had royal titles. Because Prince William, at the time, who was the Duke of Cambridge, had a royal title. So officially and legally, he could not use the Mountbatten Windsor name. So informally, and it's not a custom, because not everybody does it. It actually started pretty much with them. They say Cambridge, because legally, because they hold the styles of HRH and the titles of Prince of the Realm, they cannot legally use Mountbatten Windsor. But if Harry's titles get taken away and he becomes Henry Charles Albert David, then he would be Henry Charles Albert David Mountbatten Windsor. I also asked her if it's true that Rachel Meghan Markle, in that case, if Harry's titles were taken away and he went by Mountbatten Windsor, whether his wife would have to use the last name Windsor. Because here it says that it only applies to the blood descendants of the Duke of Edinburgh and the Queen's kids, grandkids, and so forth. And she said, no, by marriage, just like right now she's known as the Duchess of Sussex, because she uses the courtesy, she's allowed to use the courtesy title of her husband, which was bestowed upon him the day of his marriage. She would be also allowed to use the last name Mountbatten Windsor, unless the monarch decided the opposite. Because again, and you're going to see why very soon too. Okay. So this is what I am being told. This is what is written here. But this only, the Mountbatten Windsor, again, only applies to direct descendants of the children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren of the union of Queen Elizabeth to Prince Philip. Princess Margaret's children are not Mountbatten Windsor, could never use that last name, because they do not come from that lineage, because the Queen, by doing that, ensured that Prince Philip had his own little dynasty of people, and it could be traced back to Prince Philip. Okay. They even go here and say that the surname Mountbatten Windsor first appeared on an official document on 14th November 1973 in the marriage register at Westminster Abbey for the marriage of Princess Anne and Captain Mark Phillips. Okay. And then this is another important part, and please go and check it out, because I'll tell you what this lady said to me, and she was very kind. It's going to be a very expensive phone call. A proclamation on the royal family name by the reigning monarch. This is a proclamation that George V said. We're not going to be called Saxe-Coburg because everybody hates the Germans right now. We're going to be called Windsor. Okay. And everybody's going to use the last name Windsor because we're going to be British now, guys. And then the Queen said, okay, everybody's going to remain a Windsor except my kids, born out of the ones that I make with Philip. They're all, if they need a last name, it's going to be Mountbatten Windsor. The rest are still going to remain Windsor. Okay. But this is very interesting because it says a proclamation on the royal family name by the reigning monarch is not statutory. And I go, like, what do you mean? And she says it's not law. Unlike an act of parliament, it does not pass into the law of the land. Why? Because a monarch has an absolute right to change the name of the royal house and to dictate over all of the royal titles. So if Charles wanted to name tomorrow, instead of the House of Windsor, he wants to call it the House of Parker Bowles, he can do it. I don't think it'd be very popular, but he's entitled to do that. Okay? And listen to this. Such a proclamation is not binding on succeeding reigning sovereigns, which is explanatory what I just told you. Charles does not have to follow, Queen Elizabeth did not have to follow what George V said, but she did ratify it in 1952 because they asked her, you know how they asked the kings and queens, how would you like to be known? What name would you like to go under? They can choose their names. And this is why here above, they emphasize that the queen, when she acceded the throne, she ratified that. When she acceded the throne, I'm just looking for it here, because the queen did say, okay, we're going to keep the house name Windsor, and we're going to, it's going to be the House of Windsor, period. Okay. But then she changed her mind in 1960 when she said, you know what, only my kids and the kids of my kids and blah, 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 what I just explained to you, so we don't go redundantly here. Here's the kid. This is when the queen ratified. The royal family name of Windsor was confirmed by the queen because, again, of this very important paragraph below, which says that not all members have to abide, that the following monarch does not have to go by the name that the previous monarch said. Okay? So such a proclamation is not binding on succeeding reigning sovereigns, nor does it set a precedent which must be followed by reigning sovereigns who come after. Basically saying, you know how in law and court sometimes precedent matters? You know how people are online saying, is the custom, there's a precedent already? Here it's telling you that is not the case. And only the monarch can decide if the Sussex title becomes a last name. And the last time I checked, Adilis Mattress Address is not the Queen of England, so she cannot dictate how a royal title is going to be done or used. Okay? And this is because they haven't changed this part. It says here, unless the Prince of Wales chooses to alter the present decision when he becomes king, he will continue to be the House of Windsor, and his grandchildren will use the surname Mountbatten Windsor if they are not titled. I don't know how much clearer this can get. I had been posting this, and because people were still texting me saying, no, Paula, you are wrong, because 3 or 4 YouTubers said that sets a precedent, that there's a precedent. And I went and I looked, guys. I asked this lady and I said, but they said there's a precedent that Beatrice, for example, and Eugenie, they used before they got married the last name York in their jobs because they have jobs. And I actually really praised them for that they don't use Princess Eugenie, because it would be Princess Eugenie of York, because their father is the Duke of York at the moment, right? So, and then they said, well, that wasn't an informal setting that they chose to put it for the public to see them as Eugenie York or Beatrice York. But officially in a capacity, that's not how they go by. If you look at the royal website, it's Princess Eugenie. And their kids, I think, have the last name of their fathers. So this lady was very kind. And then she gave me this example. She said that, for example, the current Princess of Wales, Her Royal Highness Princess Catherine, before she married Prince William, she was Catherine Elizabeth Middleton. Now, and then she was, of course, Her Royal Highness Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, or the Duchess of Cambridge. She was never Catherine Cambridge, because she stressed to me, a royal title is not a last name. It's a royal title. This is why you have of in that part, the Duke of. Where is Harry, the Duke of? Sussex. He's the Duke of Sussex. Prince William is the Prince of Wales. Okay, so I am so grateful to her, and these people are incredible. They're very polite. I wasn't rude or anything, but I wanted to make absolutely sure, guys. And when I tell you that this lady was nice, she was incredibly nice. She sent me this document where you can see all the letters patent. There's some very interesting ones here. It goes, for example, German titles, July 17, 1917, by the king, a proclamation declaring the name of Windsor to be borne by his royal house and family and relinquishing the use of all German titles and dignities. Okay? So she sent me this. This was July 17th, 1917. And then November 30th, 1917, George V, by the God of blah, 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 blah. This is where he issued the letters patent, where he basically reduced. Remember this famous letters patent that I keep talking about, where one day George V issued this letters patent and said everybody who was a prince or princess and held the style of Her Royal Highness or His Royal Highness woke up to being Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I'm oversimplifying it, but this is the actual. Family should be established and limited in manner hereinafter declare. Now know ye that we are special grace, certain knowledge, and mere motion do hereby declare a royal will and pleasure that the children of any sovereign. So you see, it's because the monarch is the fount of all royal titles, styles, and dignities. And this is the part that pissed Meghan Markle off, because it says here that here that and this is why I tell you guys that Meghan Markle is so stupid. She doesn't even read. It says here that declare our royal will and pleasure that the children of any sovereign of these realms and the children of the sons of any such sovereign and the eldest living son of the eldest son of the Prince of Wales shall have and at all times hold and enjoy the style, title, or attribute of Royal Highness with their titular dignity of prince or princess prefix to their respective Christian names, or with their all other titles of honor, which is why Meghan Markle was so angry. And then we have here on 1952, when the Queen, when she acceded the throne, when she ratified that everybody shall bear the name Windsor. And this is the letters patent. I mean, I love this lady from the Royal Palace. You guys are amazing, okay? And she sent here. This is the House of Windsor, February 8th, 1960. This is the letters patent. And this is the part that it says. Okay, here. And whereas I have concluded that the declaration made by me, this is back in 1952, on the 9th day of April 1952, should be varied in its application to such persons. Now, this is the people she's going to talk about. This is the Queen's letters. Now, therefore, I declare my will and pleasure that while I and my children shall continue to be styled and known as the house and family of Windsor. She ratified the house and family of Windsor. My descendants and other descendants enjoying the style, title, or attribute of Royal Highness and the titular dignity of Prince or Princess of female descendants who marry their descendants shall bear the name Mountbatten Windsor. This is the letters patent. This is what is in black and white. This is not a custom, and then they became a precedent. The royal family already says that this doesn't set a precedent. Harry and William using Wales as an informal way to be in the military. It's not the law, and it doesn't make it a last name. And then this is interesting because I got this. Is the former wife. Remember when the Queen stripped Princess Diana of that? Yes. For people who still bitch about me saying that Fergie had her Royal Highness, because Fergie's divorce decree came on April 1996, and she was allowed to use her Royal Highness. But because Charles wanted the Queen to not allow Princess Diana to have any of his titles, the Queen said no. But I am gonna, and this is what she says here. But so I mean, I'm gonna leave this link here so you guys can go crazy, because you can read all the letters patents. It's incredible. I love this, because it says this is where the Queen, and whereas by convention the wife of the son of a sovereign of these realms, the wife of a son of a sovereign, and the wife of the eldest living son of the eldest son of the Prince of Wales is entitled to the style or attribute of Royal Highness. And whereas we deem it expedient to declare and define by due authority the entitlement of a former wife, other than a widow, until she shall remarry, of a son of a sovereign of these realms, of a son of a son of a sovereign, of the Princess, well, to the style, they were entitled to the style or attribute of Royal Highness. Now, now know ye that we, of our special grace and certain knowledge and mere motion, do hereby declare our royal will and pleasure that a former wife, other than a widow, until she shall remarry, of a son of a sovereign of the realms, of a son of a son of a sovereign, and of the eldest living son of the eldest son of the Prince of Wales, shall not be entitled to hold and enjoy the style or attribute of Royal Highness, in witness whereof we have caused these our letters to be made patent. Witness ourselves at Westminster the 21st day of August in the 45th year of our reign. Why is this important, guys? Because Fergie was able to use Her Royal Highness title, style, from April 1996 until August, because the divorce between Lady Diana and Prince Charles became official on the 28th of August, if I'm not correct. So you see, so I am very grateful, and I know this is a lot of info to process, but it's just that I want for you guys to make up your own minds. Please do read. Please do your research. I will leave the links. It is not a tradition. And another distinction that you guys have to know, there is an act of a peerage act in the United Kingdom. Nobility has an act. They have their own act in Parliament. It is dictated by Parliament. Royalty and royal titles are not dictated by Parliament. Because I am just, guys, here, this is directly, you can see here, petitions, Parliament, UK archive petitions. These are parliamentary petitions, and this is the answer that Parliament kept giving over and over. Rejected petition, remove the titles Duke and Duchess of Sussex from Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Okay? And this is what they answered. Okay? We can't publish petitions about honors and appointments, including asking for people to be given or have titles removed. In any case, the use of royal titles are a matter for Her Majesty the Queen and not the government or Parliament. I have done this video hundreds of times, guys. For some reason, today or yesterday, I read on GB News that saying that if the king wants to strip Harry of his royal titles, it requires an act of Parliament, when Parliament itself. So these journalists are lazy as F, and they don't even want to read. I mean, they don't even want to read anything. It's up to us YouTubers, so I appreciate your comments, guys, and like you, I was very confused. And let me tell you something else. I'm going to share something else with you, because I think that the Queen was shading Prince Harry when she bestowed upon Prince Harry the title, the Dukedom of Sussex. Because, and I'm just going to give you this a very quick thing, and I'm going to leave it for you guys also to go take a look at that, okay? Because the Dukedom of Sussex the Duke of Sussex was first created in 1801, right? It was granted to Prince Augustus Frederick, November 24th, the sixth son of King George III. Now he got married for sure. He got married to by I can't remember. Although the prince was survived by a son and daughter by Lady Augusta Murray, their marriage, which was solemnized at St. George Hanover Square Church, Westminster in 1793, had been annulled by lack of royal permission under the Royal Marriages Act, rendering the children illegitimate under law and under English law and unable to inherit titles from their father. Both children, by the annulled marriage, died childless, rendering the issue of inheritance moot. And then this guy he was still the duke, but his kids were not, because he married against the consent of the king. And then he remarried again in 1831, okay, to Lady Cecilia Gore. And again, he married against the Royal Marriages Act, which meant that his marriage was not valid, and therefore she was not entitled to the Duchess of Sussex. And if so yeah, she couldn't even be because it says here she was married to Lady Cecilia at Great Cumberland Place, London. Not being the prince's legitimate wife, Lady Cecilia could not be received at court. Now, I am not telling you that the marriage was not legitimate. It's just that it was not considered a royal marriage because he married against without the king's consent, which in the eyes of the royal family is not valid, which is why Harry had to go and ask the queen permission to marry. Because before, guys, and this is very important for you to know, before you guys, the king, all members of the royal family needed to ask permission to get married. But then there was a letters patent that said only the first 6 in line had to ask for permission to get married. Now, the queen, I've always said, could have given her consent, conditional consent for Harry to marry Meghan, and said, I give you my consent to marry Meghan, but until 2019, because we have Eugenie's wedding coming in 2018. But this is why I said that Meghan tricked Prince Harry and said that she was married in order to push that marriage forward. And you know what really bothers me, guys, because I don't know if you know this, because I already explained to you what this lady told me. And she basically said the following: Meghan is a duchess, not a Sussex. Do you understand that? She's a duchess right now. She's not a Sussex. Sussex is not a last name. There is a Sussex last name in the United Kingdom, but she doesn't belong to any family named Sussex. And there is something very interesting too, because if you remember in Lily's whatever birth certificate they produce, they have Lily's father as His Royal Highness the Duke of Sussex. So, for example, if the king decides to suddenly, and Harry right now is not the owner of the title, he's the title holder. He's not the owner of the title. Titles can be revoked, rescinded, limited, removed, bestowed. Okay? Harry's title right now is a hereditary title. You have a life peerage title and a hereditary title. The king could very well say, Harry's title will be changed from hereditary to life peerage. And what does that mean? That's what I asked the lady. Life peerage means that when Prince Harry dies, the title reverts back to the crown, which means that Meghan would no longer be the Duchess of Sussex, and the kids would not be of Sussex either. Because, and you are asking me why? Why? Because King Charles could have made the Duke of Edinburgh, of all the people, Prince Edward, the Duke of Edinburgh, he should have made that title hereditary. But he didn't, guys. He made it a life peerage title. And here it is. Because actually, Prince Edward had been promised when he got married to Sophie Rhys-Jones that he would be the next Duke of Edinburgh when he died. But we know that King Charles was reluctant to do that. But it was due to public pressure that he ended up on his 59th birthday, giving Prince Edward a very well-deserved Duke of Edinburgh. So it says here that it says the dukedom was bestowed on Prince Edward on the occasion of his 59th birthday, 10th March 2023. This fourth creation of the title is a life peerage. In the United Kingdom, life peers are appointed members of the peerage whose titles cannot be inherited, in contrast to hereditary peers. Okay? Life peers are appointed by the monarch on the advice of the prime minister, with the exception of the royal family. When they mean life peers, because I know you guys are confused, the British prime minister can request of the king to make somebody a peer, but not a royal one. I repeat that you have peers that are not royal. You have dukes that are not royals, like the Duke of Westminster. They are not royal. They are nobility. They have nobility, noble titles, not royal titles. So the prime minister can recommend to the king, can you please make him a peer? Which we have members of parliament, our peers and stuff, but they're not royal. Royal titles, royal styles, royal dignities are not mandated by an act of parliament. And as the very kind lady who I appreciate her time on that very costly phone call will for giving me this information. Now, I am only being the relayer of the information. Now that you've read what's in black and white, you will have the links and the video description. The palace answered all my questions, and you may choose to believe them or not, but there is in black and white, because Meghan Markle, I can call myself Wonder Woman. I can say, don't call me Paula Matanovich, call me Wonder Woman. That's my last name. That doesn't make it so. Meghan would need to do a deed poll, which the lady also explained to me what it was. It's basically when you go and you get your name changed, but you have to be a British citizen to do that. So unless, and we know that Meghan Markle is not a British citizen, unless she changed it in the United States, that she went and said, you know what, I'm going to be known. I want you to change my last name from Markle to Sussex. But that doesn't mean that that is the royal last name. That is a name that she chose for herself. She is a Duchess of the United Kingdom, unfortunately, and I urge all of you to request of King Charles to revert or to limit Harry's title from hereditary to life peerage. So when he dies, the title reverts back to the crown, and Meghan will never be able to use that. I mean, the kids would be Prince and Prince Archie and Princess Archie of England or whatever, Windsor, but they will not, and Meghan Markle would not be able to call herself the Duchess of Sussex ever, because the king can limit the title, just like he limited the title of Edinburgh that he bestowed upon Prince Edward. So after this, I am just an old lady standing in front of you, providing you the research I found, the research I was given, and you tell me if this crazy bitch Meghan Markle, yelling out of the top of her lungs, having Drew Barrymore was getting huge backlash by proclaiming, she thinks that because Drew Barrymore said it, that's the land. No. The last time I checked, that bitch is, I don't mean Drew Barrymore, Meghan is not the Queen of England. She does not dictate how royal titles can be used and if royal titles can be changed to surnames. Only the king can do that. So, no, Meghan, you are still Rachel Meghan Markle. That's the way that cookie crumbles.